Guys, are you kidding me? It's time, right? Is the hair on the back of
Barry,
your neck?
it's really closer to just about 2 weeks.
I know. I was trying to figure out.
2 weeks. We got to work on a calendar sometimes on the day we're not actually on.
Yeah, that's a good point. 2 weeks. When you hear this, it's going to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you'll be there.
And if you're like me, if you're coming in on Tuesday, you've got even less time.
It's less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, Russ lives in universe. We don't even
crazy.
know what Russ universe. But point being,
it's almost here.
Time.
Yeah.
You better have your stuff. You better have your stuff packed. You better have your groceries.
It's Memorial Day weekend we just passed, so I get maybe that was the weekend.
Maybe that's what's on my mind.
Yeah, you're not you're not going to spend a lot of time on it there because you're probably busy, but that's done. It's June in a day and a half here, so it's time. It's go time.
It's go time. We may be a
here.
little late in some of this as far as tips, but I don't foresee anybody unpacking their van based on what we tell them today.
No, and if you're doing if you're doing this right, you better have a touch of anxiety, and you need to go double check a couple of different. Are you sure? Are you sure? Check again. Are you sure? Check again.
Lay a hand
exactly.
on it. That's what I'm saying. And so because we are professionals and because we do this for a living, we're going to give you a little mini tip because Russ, you just did this, right? You just had a little mini Roo with some Roo people who have done this many, many times. So we're going to go ahead and check on. First of all, let me just say this. I'm Barry. That's Bryan. That's Russ. This is the What Podcast. All we do is talk about Bonnaroo and music festivals in general. We're kind of obsessed. We're kind of stupid. We're kind of crazy about this thing. And we know you are too. So that's why we're here. So
if you're listening to this, you're just as
wacky as we are.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like I need to say that.
So Russ, just this past weekend, what were you doing?
So I literally just walked in the door and hit record with y'all. But I was down at Lindsay's, from Roo Fitness. He's hosted us there before. We've had a couple of mini Roos there, and we just had a small gathering at his spot. He's got about 12 acres of land out in Winchester,
beautiful.
Which is
beautiful piece of property.
It's just an exit or two away from Manchester.
It's the Nashville side of Monteagle Mountain, for those of you who are familiar with the terrain around here.
And there have been 2 mini Roos there, we're going to call them?
More than that. 2 official ones just because of the 2 years that got canceled. But
maybe 4. I've been to 1.
Barry's been to 1. Bryan, I don't think you've made it out there.
It's gorgeous.
No, I haven't, but I have to ask you real quick, Russ.
Yeah.
You guys were drunk calling me on Friday night.
Yeah, you got one too?
Excuse me.
You got one too?
Excuse me, I prefer the term intoxicated telecommunications.
It was like 11:30 at night. I was like, I'm not going to answer the call at 11:30.
No, we were going through the phone book. We were like, let's call Bryan. Let's call Barry. And
Bryan,
nobody
please
answered.
Tell me you woke up Saturday and got him back, because I did. I called back about 9:45. Hey guys, what's going on?
No,
I guess he was not awake.
In my non-drinking days, I don't answer the phone after 9:30 because that's just my friends that are drunk.
Yeah.
Guess who did not wake up Saturday morning either? Everyone else but Russ.
Yeah, I was thinking you guys were having like a big idea session around a campfire. That's what and they're like,
we were. We had all kinds of ideas.
And this. I was just like, we got to tell some. That's what I was envisioning. I was like, I have the energy.
That's what we were doing. I wish I knew what we talked about because it was a good idea, whatever it was.
Write it down, Russ. Write it down.
Yeah. So, this was a great pre-flight check, if you will, for Bonnaroo because I got to get all my camp set up, kind of do a dry run, a trial, if you will, and just, I've already made a list of some things that I need to add to my camping checklist. But we had a great time. We built a fire. We sat in the creek. We smoked some wings. It was a good time. Daniel was there from the Roo Bus. Brooklyn was there.
You got great
Richard
weather,
from the
right?
Monkey Bar.
Great
Oh,
weather.
no, they
Mostly
got
great
rain.
weather. We got a storm, but
Oh,
it
you
came
guys-
in late at night. About 6 a.m. It was storming pretty hard. But by the time the sun came up, the rain was gone. Everything dried out. We had a beautiful Saturday, beautiful Friday, beautiful today. Really, I mean,
when-
couldn't ask for better weather.
So when I called Saturday morning, that's funny you say that. So I asked about the rain because it was bad, and so it was Daniel and Lindsay and who else was
Lauren.
there? Who?
Lauren was there.
Lauren. And Daniel said, "Yeah, I rolled out of my tent, zipped it up, and here comes Zach walking out of the woods." And I'm like, "Yeah, Zach's the ninja, man. That guy, he's probably
right.
out buying honey, or whatever. He's the, Zach, right, Bryan?"
I can't quite picture the face, but
You
I
know
think
remember.
you've met him. He's
Yeah.
from Chattanooga.
He's been at everything we've ever done.
Then I do.
You met him.
Yeah. Shout out to Zach.
Yeah, it was funny. It's like ninja dude. That's funny. So yeah, you guys had a good time. So
had a
you
great
got
time.
prepped. You know what you need to bring. You need to know what you need to not bring, and we're going to get into that later. It's kind of important. We've done this, Bryan. Again, you've been to every Bonnaroo. I've been to 18 of them. Russ, you've been down to 18. Since 18. And what's funny is Russ is the veteran camper. Russ camps
the
like
actually
every
camping
weekend.
guy. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
barely know
I've
how to
been
do
camping.
Bryan brings
camping
the
for
worst
years.
tent
Yeah.
ever.
it. It's on my list over here, actually.
But it works. It works for you, and that's the point. So we're going to share those tips. But y'all had a great time. Again, I can't stress this enough. This whole Bonnaroo thing has connected us. I mean, the fact that the three of us are on here is because of Bonnaroo. There's no question about it. And Russ, you spent the weekend with people you would not have ever met.
Correct. And
If
we
not
brought
for
that
Bonnaroo.
up so many times. That was the theme. And, also just this running thing of, I think everyone that we've talked to, everyone loves the lineup that we've talked to, but everyone's like, that's really background noise. I mean, the main thing that people want to go is they want to hang out with their friends and they want to see everybody that we haven't seen in so long. And this was just kind of part of that. Everyone was just, thrilled to get back to the farm and thrilled to hang out and do exactly what we were doing this weekend, just hanging out and having a good time.
I wasn't going to go there till you just said that, but I wanted to, it occurred to me this weekend because we've talked about the festival universe has changed. Maybe not in a good way. We're kind of the festival universe, they're not buying tickets. Kids are not buying tickets. I'm going to ask you guys, is it because, and Bryan, you've talked about it a lot here and even on your own personal show, the Stone on Air podcast, is it because it's become so expensive, or is it because it's become so expensive I only can do it once and then I don't want to do it a second time? And that's a different thing, and what I mean by that is everything we just said, you and I, we can't wait to go back to Bonnaroo next year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that changed? Is it the kids are, I say kids. Is it people want to do it once and then they don't want to do it again? It's like, okay, I've done that. It's in my pocket. Moving on.
That's a pretty good question, because I think it can vary certainly who you talk to, but there's a level of this is just something you got to do, and people do. I mean, that's what I've always told people. I mean, just give it a try.
You gotta do it.
If you're anywhere in the Southeast, give it a try once. If you're anywhere near to that kind of thing, and once might be all you need. But it does feel like for a long time, Bonnaroo, and maybe it's just because it was all the people around us and the still the semi community. I don't say it's still a community, but it's a little smaller for us than maybe it was 10, 12 years ago. Maybe because it always felt like, well, can't wait to see you next year. Maybe we're outliers on that a little bit.
That's what I'm
maybe,
Yeah.
but
that hit me about Friday night. I think I was watching the Beach Boys thing, which we're going to get into, and it was like, I've done it once. Do I need to do it again?
there
I don't
are
know.
things that fall into that category, and that doesn't make them any less special. Just because you do it once, so I bet there's this. I bet they
think
struggle
it
with that as
depends.
far as trying to what demographics they're trying to sell to. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, it depends on who you end up going with. Because, Lauren, who was with us this weekend, she even said, she went her first 1 or 2 years, didn't have a great time for whatever reason, but then she found this group of us, and, she said it just changed everything. And it's, Drew Holcomb's got that song, You Got to Find Your People. It's like you got to find your group. And once you get into that, then that's what's going to make the difference. That's what's going to keep you coming back.
That's a testament to her determination to make that work. If she had a year or two of Bonnaroo initially that didn't go well, I mean,
Yes.
I don't know where I was just reading it or something you said, Barry, or you wrote or something that it could be the worst thing ever or
Could be
the
best or the worst.
It could be the worst weekend of your life. Luckily, I've only had a day or two where I thought maybe that was going to be the case in 20 years, but it could be the worst decision you've ever made.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
that's all interesting, just things to think about. But I just think there's a certain amount of people in this space of Bonnaroo that just get it more than anything else.
Well,
Its
clearly, the three of us spend 52 weeks trying to get ready for the next one. So we're gonna do that, and it happens here in, like you said, less than a couple of weeks, depending on when you're hearing this. But I also wanted to bring up, and this show is already going to be long, but I can't move on without the Beach Boys documentary came out Friday. I've watched it twice.
Disney Plus, right?
Disney Plus already.
I don't have
My brother Bob, God love him. I have thought about this so many times. My older brother Bob has turned me on to so many bands that I didn't even realize. Anyway, we won't go into that. We all have our brother. We all have that brother that had the record collection that, whether you knew it or not, it was like, oh my God.
Well, in my family, I was the brother with the record collection, but yes.
Everybody has that person, right? And Russ is passing it on to his nephew, which I totally respect. Yeah. My grandchild, who's 2.5, in the car the other day, looked at his mother and said, "Mama, please play Mama Tried." I'm just going to tell y'all right now, I'm tearing up just thinking about it.
I'm not shocked to hear about that.
I feel like my work here on earth is done.
Please play Mama Tried.
When a 2.5-year-old is asking for Merle Haggard, I've done something right.
Mama Tried.
Yeah.
Mama
But
tried.
anyway, so the Beach Boy thing, and we talked about it last week, didn't we? And Bryan, you said you're as big a fan, or you're a fan.
I'm a very, very big fan of the story and the music, but the story maybe even more than the music of the Beach Boys.
So this thing, and I won't spend too much time on it, but we talked about the Beatle documentary, the Peter Jackson, when it came out. And the Beach Boys thing is not as in-depth nearly, and I have made more fun of Mike Love than any human being.
You really do. I don't. Sometimes I'm like, man, take it easy on Mike Love.
I need to back off.
I feel bad.
He's an entrepreneur, as the business people would, the capitalistic people world would tell you.
So, Mike, here's the thing, and there's so much to unpack on this thing. There is no Bonnaroo without the Beach Boys. There is no real Beatles as we know it later without the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys are huge. And what's so funny to me is everybody has two images of the Beach Boys. There's the Mike Love, early 60s beach hits, which were
the goofball stuff.
The goofball.
A little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then there's the genius Brian Wilson stuff. And what I thought this documentary did was merge the two in a way that I didn't really consider. Mike wrote some great lyrics for some pop hits, and I love a pop hit. I love the Archies. I have no problem admitting to being a pop hit fan. And what this thing kind of did for me was Mike Love is he's not Mick Jagger. He's not sexy. There's nothing sexy about the Beach Boys.
No.
Right?
At all. There's something
You're right.
charming about the Beach Boys, but there's
But
nothing sexy about them. No.
or scary, right? And that's what
times,
early rock and roll was. Those Rolling
Yeah.
Stones, the Doors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
the Doors scared the shit out of people in the
just
60s.
just to be so Jim Morrison with My Glove. No. Or Bryan. But man, that music is so good. I don't know. I just think it's so great, and I'm so glad I saw it. And again,
And so this is just I don't know other than the few mentions you made. This is just a rock doc. It's not a biopic.
No, it's a
Yeah.
documentary.
Good. And I want to see it, except
Okay.
I don't have Disney
I do
Plus,
too.
and I probably never will. The streaming services are killing me over here.
Yeah, and
Killing
there's
me.
so many. They did the and I don't remember the movie that was on a couple of years ago that made Brian's dad look like such an asshole. And
That's
he
why
is.
I don't like biopics. So that's
Yeah,
why I don't need
was,
the
and-
dramatization of it.
Well, just along those lines. So Murray, the dad, who abused Brian and Carl and Dennis and all that, but he sold the publishing rights to Brian's songs. And I guess I knew that, but I didn't really consider he also sold the publishing rights to Mike's. Mike never got any publishing rights to any of those songs.
Really?
So I have
So
to
I don't-
give him. I don't blame him for being bitter. He hadn't
No.
made a
Yeah.
penny off of all that stuff, and he wrote all of those early hits. He did the
So-
lyrics.
Spoiler alert. So Mike Love does he just own the rights to the Beach Boys
Nothing.
property as a brand?
I don't even know what he owns, but he didn't get. He wrote the lyrics to all the early stuff, and Bryan wrote the music,
Yeah.
and Murray sold it all out from under him for $700,000.
Man.
In the days of $400 million
Yeah.
quarter catalog sell-offs by Neil Young and Bob Dylan, like there's any of that music anybody really needs.
No, that's
So I need
nothing
to-
for a body
I
of
need
work
to back
like that.
up a bit. I can't blame him for being a little bit bitter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then the stories just get so wild too.
They're
with the Beach Boys.
crazy,
so wild.
and just to be, I've done nothing but listen to Beach Boys since Friday. I mean, all my vinyl, everything. I've just been obsessed ever
It's
since.
my favorite Christmas album of all time.
Oh, my
There's
God,
no
dude.
better Christmas music on the planet than the Beach Boys Christmas album.
I think one of the great moments is hearing Mike Love say Carl had the voice of an angel. Just to hear him say it. Real quick, and then we'll move on. I got to interview Bryan about 4 years ago. I never, ever, ever, ever imagined that would happen. It was the most nervous I've ever been.
I knew
called-
this happened. I remember it happened. Was that on the phone?
Yeah. I was on the phone. He came to the Tivoli. My brothers, my whole
I went to
family.
that show.
Wasn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
God, his sound was so good. My brothers are all fans. I called all of them because I knew if I had not reached out to them and said, "What do I ask?" I would hear about it after, and they had nothing. All three of them said, "Ask him why Mike Love is such a dick." I'm not kidding. That was the question.
I believe you. I assume
Yeah.
you didn't ask that.
I did not
question.
ask that. I didn't ask much. All I got was yes, no's. But I said, when did you know that Pet Sounds was going to be, what it is? And he said, when I heard my brother sing God Only Knows.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before.
And I was
Yeah,
like,
it's a great
okay,
story.
That's all I need. I don't care. I'm good. Because that's such, man, oh man, that song makes me cry.
Well, I might have to borrow your Disney Plus login for a day.
You're welcome
so I can
to it.
watch
And it's so interesting because Janelle Monáe is in this documentary, and she mentions
Oh, really?
that. I won't spoil it, but
Okay. Yeah, I want to see this too. This is interesting
it's
me
so
now.
good. All right, that's a whole diversion. So the point of this show is our do's and don'ts, which we've done since 2018, right? So we're gonna dive into. Is there anything else before we? Did I miss something?
Brian,
real quick, just real quick mention of the heading to Vegas here.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I mean, we could do this. It's a month and 2 weeks away.
I'm excited for you.
We have all our Chattanooga airport here in Tennessee. Chattanooga, Tennessee is not the most efficient airport in the country or even in the region or even maybe this side of the Mississippi. But it does make for excellent travel if you do use it as far as simplicity. But we now have direct flights out to Vegas starting last week. And just a super short story. A friend of mine who's married and she didn't want to go. And he just looking for somebody who wants to tag along. He's going to pick up some of the tab. Not all of it. It's going to cost some cash. It's not free. But a nice deal that I couldn't turn down to go see Vegas at the Sphere. The final 3 nights of this residency at the Sphere. I'm assuming you know what the Sphere is. With not enough time to explain it. I don't mean you. I just mean anybody. But the amazing venue in Vegas. And I got no business going to Vegas in July. None at all. But I'm going anyway. And so you get excited thinking it's the last 3. Okay, it's the last 3 of the residency for the 2 months. Well, the Dead are turning into whatever the bad joke was of that will never stop Kiss or one of the other farewell tour bands that just do this over and over.
It just never ends. Yeah.
Now it's total eye roll now. Like, okay, this is the last one. Sure. But it's less about that, more about just experiencing that venue, which I guess, in 20 years might look like primitive technology. But looking forward to it. Not a big Vegas guy. Don't gamble. All that. Trying to stay away from the insanity that can be that kind of party. But
I'm excited.
Here we go.
For you.
Yeah,
July 11th.
I'm excited for you. You remember I bought tickets with my brother and nephew to go see the King Crimson thing in October.
Yeah, I want to go too. I need to pick up a ticket and go with
we
y'all.
need to make that work. And figure out how you can go with us. That's going to be.
Yep.
We need to do that, but I get it, man. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, me and Zach were talking about that. I think he's going to go see them in Atlanta.
Zach, he's such a. He'll be on stage. He's that guy we're going to look up. He'll be like.
Yeah. How did I get up here? Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, isn't that Zach?
Good for people good for anybody that works that system in that room and that line and that.
I think it's funny.
That entrance point, whatever it might be.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna do.
We got a bank of phone calls we'll get to.
Yep.
And then we'll just kind of bounce around in here and have a little fun with this, I guess.
I think that's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna start out with the thank you all first of all for calling 423-667-7877 and
keep those coming. We're not wrapping this little thing up, and we might have another round of just a few more. If you got questions or anything like that, that we might do next week as well.
Yeah, we didn't even get to all the calls in this episode, so yeah, we'll probably
we're not going to
at least once more.
We're not going to. We're just dropping a few of them because
we're not even close to all of them.
And let's just say this too: the do's and don'ts. We've done this now since, like I said, 2018. So some of them are our own, things we've learned. Some are we just straight up stolen from other people.
And then some are obvious,
Some are obvious.
But then even though every now and again you think something's so obvious and it slips your mind, a generalized mind, where it's like, of everything I know and as smart as I think I am, I didn't think of this.
Yep.
Like that
I still forget the simplest things. I still do it.
And let's do this because I just think it's funny. So when I first went, 2002, right? Was the first year?
That was the very first year, yeah.
Went into the paper, Chattanooga Times Free Press, and they said, oh my God, there's traffic backed up to Nashville to here. Get in the car with a photographer and go find a story. So I walk in on this thing. They were so nice. We checked in at that Holiday Inn. If you know where the Holiday Inn is. We walked in. Yes. They were super nice. They escorted us in. Me and Tim Barber walked in, and we were both immediately both immediately, this is cool. This is the real deal. Fell in love. I went home that night at the end after doing a story and told my wife, I want to go back. So went back at '07, but my bosses said, you need to start going because you're on salary, basically, literally. We can't keep sending these hourly people. You're on salary. We can send you for the whole week. And
well, this is where salary really works out for you, Barry.
It did. But so where I'm going with it is I was panicked for 3 months. I mean, I was reading everything on Reddit. I think it probably was at the time.
Probably.
How to camp, what to bring. I mean, I can remember people telling you what type of shoes to bring. Don't bring flip flops because you're going to get stuck in the mud. I mean, it was detailed, and I was panicked. And the next year, my son went, and then a couple of years after that, my daughter went with her friends, and they were even more obsessed. And that's my point in it. It was like weeks and weeks and weeks of making lists, right? You'd bring this. You don't bring that. Do you need 2 of these? Do you need 1 of those? Are you going to bring it? My point is it was hours and hours of planning, right? I mean, did you guys do that, Brian? I mean, you just kind of went and jumped over a fence.
Jumped a fence.
Yeah, for a long time, it took me a long time to put any care or concern into any suggestions I'd be given by anybody.
But because we're close.
Yeah,
right?
And because I didn't, I was young and carefree about everything. But it didn't take too long to start having to figure that out. And then we have built, over the last nearly 15 years, such an ecosystem of
Camp Nut Butter.
We don't have a lot to individually do, and that's part of actually on a list of things that I have as a suggestion. And but yes,
along those lines,
you can't stop. You can't start early enough.
But you were
right.
You were in charge of, if I remember, vodka, right?
Lots of alcohol.
Because we had a Bloody Mary tent.
We had a bar, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Nick, who did the graphic work for us and was there for 4 years solid at least, was
Nicky
T was big on getting the Tito's vodka, but it came in a glass bottle and it ruined presentation. Remember when he took it out of the bottle and put it in a plastic volume? So damn disappointed that the presentation of the Bloody Mary bar wasn't going to look as good, but everything outside of the vodka, I made sure it was there.
But it was a list. We all had something, right?
Yeah.
Everybody had to bring lemons, limes, whatever.
I approached this thing because I've been camping years before Bonnaroo, so I was on the camping side. I was set, but I was more used to camping out in the woods where you have to bring everything, and Bonnaroo isn't quite like that. You're not going out in the woods with nothing. There's food. There's facilities. You don't have to bring quite like you're going out on a wilderness trip. So
it's fair to say though, you want to be pretty close to that though, right? As a camper.
Oh yeah,
Taco. Yeah.
Those early years though, Taco. That's what it felt like, man. It felt like you were going to the moon. You better
much
fucking bring everything.
In the early days.
You're like Lewis and Clark out here. Yeah.
A little bit. They had the general stores out there in GA that were pretty effective for toiletries a little bit, and then a couple of vendors closer towards Centeroo, and the rest of it was a sea of freaking cars and porta-johns and maybe an ice truck.
Right.
That was it. And now there's vendors at every corner, and now there's parties at every block of every camp. So yes, going or I won't say unprepared, but going and maybe missing a few things and forget. You can still make your way pretty well.
You can probably get what you need if you forgot something.
Yeah, God forbid though, at that early on, you forgot a toothbrush.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that general store might have had a few toothbrushes, but they probably ain't gonna last that long. I know the lotion didn't for anybody who eventually needed some lubrication for all the obvious reasons of walking much.
Monkey butt was was primo, right? All right. So yeah, it's changed a little bit, and you can leave, and people can leave, and there's a Walmart down the street, so it's changed a little bit in that line. line. But there's still some tips, and there's still some stuff that we've learned, and like I said, we've stolen from some of it. So, all right, Bryan, you look like you're loaded up. What's your first tip?
Yeah, I got a few. I'll start with, I'll go with dues. We mentioned this a little bit at some point in the last couple of months, but if you've got medication that you're bringing that is important to you, and even if it's over-the-counter medication, maybe if it's just Benadryl, have those in bags, in plastic, see-through, like Ziploc-style bags, easy to read, easy to get to, and really it might be a good idea to just leave them out on top and simple to see, because that way if somebody sees that and they might not care. You might run into somebody who's
right.
checking, who doesn't even care about your bag of what looks like medication that is completely prescribed to you and or over the counter, or you might have somebody who cares a lot and looking at that and realizing, okay, I got that done in my head, my checklist. They move along. They're not thinking about that. And you don't risk not having your blood pressure medication like I've run into before,
Right.
or your anxiety medication, even if it's a low grade, something that's a mood stabilizer, something that, I mean, Bonnaroo is a wonderful weekend, but it doesn't have to be. It can be bad too. And if you don't have regular things in your life that help you when things don't go well, you're gonna have a bad time. So if you keep that simple for people, that's gonna be one thing you don't ever have to think about. If you try to get sneaky, even on accident, because you're just like, I stuff this in here, or maybe you have it in a mixed bottle, or like I had in a Monday through Sunday daily little plastic thing, they might toss that and they're not gonna care because they don't have time to care. They have protocols and rules. So I would say that's
specifically, you're talking about when you come into camp, you're going to get searched. Your car's going to get searched. So this is a tip for that as far as arrival.
And I'll go ahead and cross over here with another one on that is also just don't assume at any security point that you're going to be going through that it could be anything like the ones you've done before, or like if you're going through the arch or the clock tower, which is now the disco ball tower entrance, just because you've had good experiences getting through there with security, don't assume you will again. Don't get loose with things you might not, I'm not trying to tell you to sneak things in, but whatever you're doing, don't assume it's going to be simple just because your experience is that it is. And don't assume it's going to be bad because someone tells you it is.
Yeah. So we're going to jump around here. Go ahead, Russ. I can tell you're loaded up with something to share here.
Yeah, I got quite a bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well,
no,
are you going to jump onto this one? Because what I was going to say is, I know we talked about going 1-1-1, but now that Bryan has shared that, I want to jump on what he has said. So
were you going to
change
jump on
it?
his? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So along those lines, a basic rule is just don't be a dick.
It's a simple rule, but a very, very effective rule.
Let's start there. Let's just start there. So
Good one.
Along those lines, to Bryan's point, that guy who was going through your medicines is just a kid who is a football player who volunteered the day before.
Yeah.
He's not a hard trained, he's not a ATF guy or an FBI guy.
And there's a lot of dysfunction and a lot
Correct.
because it's such a huge organization with so many volunteers. Most are trying to do well. Exactly.
And a lot of times it depends on the time of day. You might have got him at he's just started, and so he's hypersensitive, he or she.
Wants to do a good job, wants to
impress, yeah.
Or he's at the end of a 12-hour shift and he doesn't care.
He's done with your bleep.
He's
heard
all of your stories.
Out of his way.
He'd heard her. And so that's why, and that's true anywhere on the grounds.
Yeah, just the quickest, thing with my little daily medicine thing that they took. They dumped it out and gave me the thing back, and I went and I was my body language is awful. My mouth was shut, and I was just as in my car, and I had the thing in my hand, and I went. She's like, "Don't throw that," and I just threw it in the back seat of my car.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was that was like not my best moment, probably not hers either, but it was.
No, you
but
came into camp pretty hot.
I know I was in a mood. I know better though. That is on me. What am I doing? I'm 40 something years old. What am I doing? Of course you don't bring medicine that's not marked. No, you don't do that. Don't.
Yeah,
That's stupid.
You're not mad at
No.
her. You're mad at yourself. Yeah.
At that time, I was mad at them.
Well,
that's why I wanted to go back to that. And you're not wrong.
Yeah. Later, I realized that was so on me. The next day I left luckily I'm at home. But if you just came from Indiana, are you driving to Indiana to get your your blood pressure medication?
no,
Probably not. And that's dangerous. And that's kind of what I was telling her. I was like, I know you think you're doing really good work here, but you're actually making things dangerous for people.
You just took my blood pressure medication.
And it was none of it. Not just like,
yeah, but she just 10 minutes earlier left the training session. Doesn't matter. Throw it away.
Or the car behind me's got some oxys mixed in with their Tylenol. I mean, I get it. This is on me. Put it in a plastic bag. Make it easy for them to see. They'll check it and they won't think about it again, and you'll move it right along.
That's what I'm trying
good
to.
Point.
Yeah, I think you summed it up. That guy just driving in from Indiana, he's been in a car forever.
Imagine how pissed he's going to be.
He doesn't want to hear anything about, but this is the point. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Good point.
So roll up, there's two sides to the story. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Russ, but I just wanted to put a point on that one.
Good point. My tip, I'm going to start before you even get to Bonnaroo, even in the state. If you're coming from out of town, I want to talk about your car and just making sure that it is ship shape and ready both mechanically and legally, so that you don't get any trouble on the way here. You want to make sure that your taillights are working, that your turn signals, that your tires are good, your brakes, tags, yes, everything is in order as far as your registration, your insurance. You want to have that ready. Last year I was behind the Roo bus and I noticed that they had no brake lights on it. I was like, dude, you got to get that fixed. And he did finally.
Daniel.
But take a minute, walk around your car. If you're close to an oil change, go ahead and get it done. And then the other thing is, don't decorate your car.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Every state trooper, every sheriff in town, out of town, knows when Bonnaroo is, and they're looking.
The state of Tennessee is out to get your road violation revenue.
Don't give them a reason. Don't give them a reason.
Once you get to Bonnaroo, you'll be fine, but you got a long way to go, and they can get you on something petty.
A lot of counties. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes. Don't take that soap bar and draw big mushrooms or marijuana leaves.
Also, don't hang your camping pass from your rearview mirror. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in Tennessee, it's illegal to hang anything from your rearview mirror while you're driving. Don't hang stuff up there. I'm not saying you're going to jail if you do it, but you don't want to give them a reason to look and notice.
Yeah, that is true. It seems weird if you've never heard that before, but because it might obstruct the view of the windshield.
That's the reason for the law, but a lot of people don't realize it. And you see people all the time with stuff hanging it, and it's not a big deal. But Bonnaroo weekend, if you get somebody takes a real interest in you, and then maybe if you've got a taillight out too, if that's 2 or 3 reasons, they're gonna pop you. So just you want to be smart and legal. And also, a couple of weeks ago I was at Shaky Knees. I had a dead battery. AAA saved me. I would recommend AAA if you're headed out on a long trip. It's very good backup insurance. Also, I've got one of these. This is a battery booster. They've gotten so small and affordable. You can put this in your glove box and it'll dump your car.
Thing doesn't look like it has enough power to do much with the car, but you wouldn't be showing me.
It does. Trust me. Also, it's got USB ports. You could charge your phone with this. I mean, it's multi-use. If you don't need it for an emergency, you've got a battery backup for charging your phone, running lights, anything. So
So I'm jumping on that one because I knew we would jump around, but that's a great thing. Mm-hmm. Those or something similar. You can also buy a $10, $15 USB fan that will plug into that for your camp, right?
Yeah,
'Cause it's
it'll
gonna
run your
be
fan
hot.
all weekend
It's
long.
gonna
It is
be
going to be
hot,
hot. Yep.
guys.
Yeah, it's warming
Definitely.
up quickly down here.
Yeah, our friend Nate had one of those last year, right? A little battery power booster. You and I,
Yep.
Russ, have used them. We use them to, and Bryan to do our recording. It'll run the microphones and the recorders and everything, but it will also run a fan.
Yeah,
So-
external power, portable external power has become quite effective, of compact and powerful these days.
Yeah, and affordable.
I still have a
you
bunch
can-
of
you can
and
get 'em-
affordable too. Yeah.
That's one of those things it's kind of going back to when I talked about 15, 20 years ago, the difference. Yeah, that didn't exist. I mean, the
No.
idea of getting power was, you would run your car battery down. And along those lines, another tip, every now and then, maybe once a day, just start your car. Don't run it for long because it's probably
Right.
running into the back of somebody's tent. But just start it to get the battery, make sure it's still working.
Yeah,
That's
because
another
every
one.
year people try to leave and they're like, got a dead
Happened
battery.
to me once.
It's 'cause-
Happened to
yeah,
me the second year, and I happened to have one of those battery charger things, and it jumped me off. But
I have a feeling we're going to get a summer heat this year. It just feels like that down here in Tennessee. It's starting to warm up. It's humid at night now.
yeah,
It is.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little later into June before humidity at night hits. It's hit here recently, but something tells me there's gonna be a lot of people sleeping in their SUVs with it cranked up and the AC blowing all throughout GA. So do try to make sure that your exhaust is not pumped right next to somebody's tent.
yes.
Please.
If it
Yeah.
is,
It's not
I
funny.
don't
That's
know.
not funny at all. Think about
No.
that. Think about how you camp. That's when you hear about people dying, it's usually one of two things. It's either somebody passed out in their tent and it got 4 bazillion degrees and they overheated,
Yeah, heat
Or-
stroke in their
or they,
sleep, basically.
or the exhaust was pumped back into a tent, or they overdosed. So 3 things.
Good point. Yeah, and back to the battery thing. If your battery's about 4 or 5 years old, it's probably time to go ahead and replace it. That's the problem with mine. It was about 5 years old, and it sits for a couple days and no juice. So
Yeah.
if you don't know when your battery was replaced, maybe check that. And maybe
Boy,
get a new
those
one
things
before
are
the trip.
expensive now. You gonna get everybody your
I
shop
know
your
it.
shop discount there, Russ.
Yeah,
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 if you
hit
hadn't
me
bought
up.
one in a
I-
while, couple $100.
They have gone up. I mean, I hate that, but and they're not any better. I mean, that's the thing. You're paying more for basically
Well, hey,
lead acid battery. Yeah.
That's
the
right.
U.S. economy entered chat. Let's go.
You're right. Exactly.
All right, so let's just keep with that theme, sort of. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna jump around, and a lot of this is stuff people have already talked about. But I still think it's a good idea along those lines to not only just check your car, but also do maybe a pre-pack. If you're going with a
Yeah.
lot of people, or if you're going by yourself, every year, I mean, I have a truck, and again, I'm an hour away. But Russ and when Brad was going with us, we all said, "Oh, hey, can you bring? Can I put my chair in your truck, or can I put my easy up?" And I'm like, "Sure." There's tons of space, and then at the end of the day, when I'm done packing, it's over. It's full. We used to laugh with Brad the year that I followed he and Hillary up. She wanted to bring a hula hoop. They didn't have room in their car for a hula hoop. There
Yep.
was literally no room for a hula hoop. It was almost a fight. It was funny. That's why I even remember it. She was like, "I want to bring my hula hoop." And he's like, "There's no damn room for your hula hoop."
Yeah, and they just had a hatchback GTI.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
It wasn't a
but-
big. Yeah.
That's my point. And again,
No,
we're
yeah.
an hour away, but you think you want to bring, you got to bring, you need the hula hoop, you need the whatever. At some point, you need to basically, pare it down to the essentials.
Yeah. If he'd have gotten rid of that full length mirror, he probably could have fit the hula hoop in there.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, he did. That was the year he brought
That's stand up, walk around,
mirror,
king size tent with mirror and full blown queen size mattress.
Yeah.
That they had.
It's hilarious on Monday.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to pack it in, and
With his
it was funny.
very what am I trying to say? Handyman skills that are very, very lacking. He had difficulty getting all that stuff up. So that was a open and close of the weekend disaster, which anybody can run into, which is just a on the fly do's and don'ts. Don't try to set up something that you're not completely sure. Or don't try to get too elaborate. And this would be one that would be on many people's lists that is somewhere in the middle of all this list of just, this is one we hear every single year that's worth repeating. Set up your stuff at home first. Go to your backyard,
in the
set it
backyard.
up. Make sure you didn't lose a pole since last year. I live alone, don't have a bunch of kids in my garage screwing all my crap up, and and my little box is exactly how I left it last year. I probably will break that rule and won't pop up my little tiny ass tent. But generally speaking, it's a good idea, even if you've done it before, because you get out there.
Well,
Man,
along
that's
those
a
lines,
frustrating way to start. I want to go do stuff. Well, you're going to be pretty pissed off when you get back in 5 hours and you don't have a tent put up yet, dude.
well, yeah. So along those lines, when I come home and I put my stuff in a pile, and it has a roll of tape, it has a hammer, it has a screwdriver, it has whatever, and then at some point, maybe during the year, I know where there's a roll of tape, and I go get it.
And then now it's not there yet.
Now it's not
Now
there.
you don't put it back, right?
Exactly, that kind of thing, and then you get up to Manchester, and
Yeah, that's why this weekend was so good, because I got to actually set everything up to camp and kind of go through the my compartments and drawers and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. So
right.
yeah, it's a good
And
point.
we're
Set it up in
lucky.
your backyard.
We all we do this together, and it used to be, and he hasn't been in a while, but we had Denson. Mr. I don't know what do you want to call him? Denson's that guy. If somebody in camp says, "Hey, I need a hammer," he's like, "Do you need a 16-ounce ball peen hammer, or do you need the claw? What are you roofing hammer?"
He's like the guy with the big key ring hanging off the side of his belt. Like, all right, what do we need over here?
Exactly.
Yeah, he's got an Ace Hardware in his back pocket.
He's got he is the elder.
Yeah.
He's the elder's Ace.
He's
Ace
elder,
Hardware. Yeah. And I try to be that, but I'm not Denson. I mean, he literally is like, I got the I got the roofing hammer.
We're making jokes to not really exaggerate that the guy had everything.
He had everything. He's got the knife. He's got the duct tape. He's got the zip ties. He's got the whatever.
And for that, I'll jump off of that, Barry, and say that, a planning meeting, we usually use pre-show meetings and planning meetings almost as jokishly like it's just reasons to get together and have some beers and yuck it up, which is what those usually ended up being. But there's still a little bit good came out of those, and any kind of, and especially these days, you can meet up anywhere through your phones and everywhere else. If nothing else, just a thread. Have a good solid kind of designate things out. Here's what you're doing. Here's what you're doing, especially if you're with trustworthy people, which sometimes you got, if you got a big enough group, there might be somebody might be wishy-washy, you don't know. But to have a good idea. I never knew, I always knew I didn't need to have a small hatchet. Right. I was never going to need to have a small hatchet in the history of my life because I had Denson to go get the small or the big or the Paul Bunyan style.
That's right.
But that if you don't have that guy to know through your threads and through your gatherings of people to know that, okay, I know that they've got that part covered. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And we're due for a meeting, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes. Or 20-foot tarp. I mean, who's bringing the tarp? Who's bringing the zip ties? I years and years ago bought a gross of zip ties. I have every size zip tie in the world. They're in my truck. They are always in my truck.
Already,
Right? Bungee cords.
Bungee cords are big.
Bungee cords are huge.
Bungee cords are huge. Tarps, various sizes.
Extra tent stakes. You're going to need more than you think because you really want to make sure, a couple years ago we had that big storm come through with the wind. Easy ups are flying. You want to make sure you're staked down really, really good before you do anything.
Yeah, we'll get more into that in the phone calls too.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and listen to some phone calls. Actually, let's do that. And
yeah, one more on the top of my don'ts I want to give real quick before we do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that we always talk about don't go hard on Thursday, and that has become a very trendy and a suggestion to have, whether people actually mean it or not. Maybe it's in jest, but don't go hard on Thursday. I would say don't go hard most of the days if you want the best of any of your days.
yeah,
Or
and
I'm
don't go
trying
hard. Period.
I'm trying to use old me and new me and mix them together here, right? Like that would be a suggestion. I would have been like, next, 5-10 years ago.
That is funny to hear you.
I know,
of
right?
all people saying
Of
this,
all people, yeah.
but this comes from an honest place.
But
people.
I'm thinking here's a good place to kind of compromise here. Go hard one day.
Yeah.
Pick that
As a
day,
treat.
whatever go hard means for you. Pick one day, whether it's your favorite day or maybe your least favorite. That might be the best day to go hard, and then you don't have to worry about remembering anything if that happens to be a consequence of that action. Maybe Saturday, maybe Friday, whatever it might be. Rather than just kind of letting it happen, because that's what happens when you get out there and have fun. It just happens. But boy, the next day. I mean, even in my heaviest of drinking and really getting into it, and I would still, have countless "I'll never drink again" moments at Bonnaroo the next day. And then, of course, what am I doing 2 hours later? And that's
Bloody Marys.
Bloody Marys. Oh my God, what a great way to start the day! Which that's still a great way to start the day. You don't have to go hard just because you had a Bloody Mary. Early in the morning.
I like this take, especially given last week when I was so cautionary. I like this idea because everyone's gonna go hard. You need to go hard. You should go hard. It's the whole reason to be there. Maybe you can do 2 days.
You're living in an environment that allows it, that makes it safe, that'll let it be safe.
100%.
But so why not let loose? I'm not trying to be
No, I agree.
Let loose. But by the time Saturday rolls around, if you started Wednesday, Thursday, man, you're just not going to feel good, and that's just a bad place to be. So I would,
I like
give it a try.
I like this approach a whole lot better. You're gonna go hard.
Yeah.
Just whether you plan it or not, as you're suggesting, you're gonna. But I guess the point is, you're gonna pay. There's dues.
You pay the price.
There's a due. There's dues coming. So if you're and I guess what we're saying is if your day is Saturday night, if that's your go-to, you might not want to go hard on Thursday or Friday, plan for Saturday. So I like that.
Yeah, and when you go hard,
when
you go hard, make sure you eat. Because Saturday at Shaky Knees, I went the whole day and then realized, it's time to go. I realized I didn't eat anything all day.
That'll
make sure you
sneak
plan
up
out
on
some
you,
time
man. The
for
water,
a meal.
we're going to talk about
hydration.
that.
Yeah,
food.
That will sneak up on you.
It'll sneak
Yeah,
up
you
on
can easily forget that.
All right. So let's listen to some these wonderful, and thank you everybody for calling. It's so cool. I love this phone call thing. It's one of the best things we ever came up with, Russ. And by the way,
You're welcome.
I loved. I wanted to give a shout out to you for editing, as you do every week. But I just thought it was so funny when you had the scene from was it Wonderful Life?
It's a Wonderful Life, yeah. When she
shattering the
takes out the record,
That's so
shatters that record, yeah.
And little things like that, man. Those little things.
Is that where
Thank you.
that image comes from? Is that the original?
Yes.
Is that where you're going to think
Probably.
of the record being Smashing His Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, you do a great job, and thank you.
Thanks.
I just didn't want you to.
We hear comments all the time. People are like, "Oh, let Russ talk more." It's like, why? I'm not really supposed to be. I'm
you
more
don't
of the
Well,
producer.
it's not that you're not supposed to be.
We just
I don't
talked
think,
over it.
is it?
I don't know.
All right.
Y'all are the
So bring
hosts,
these
yeah.
on, and
So from the
while we do this,
Official-
I'm gonna go pee. So whatever, let's run them.
the official Bonnaroo newsmaker phone line. This is not from that. This is a quick 30-second going backwards the last 2 years. And this is our old buddy Brad. It's what he said 2 years ago and then 1 year ago in about 15-second each clip. So it's run together. Listen closely. Brad Steiner on his Once Upon a Time show. Here, hold on. Sorry.
My number one do or don't for Lord Taco is the same every year, and yet you break it every year. You and Bryan Stone.
I do.
You and Bryan Stone don't follow my two biggest rules. Don't hook up at Bonnaroo. It's just so gross.
Break it every year.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, look at that guy. He can't help it.
I know.
1 year later.
You guys know my other hard and fast rule.
What is it?
Taco.
Oh, yeah.
Don't hook up.
Don't hook up.
Don't hook up. Don't hook up at Bonnaroo.
Hook up.
Don't hook up at Bonnaroo.
Okay, so my first commentary, and then Russ, you can take it. My first commentary is Brad for being one of the most a brain of intellect beyond many I know, a wit that's quicker than anybody I know, can still get so narrow-castedly blindered focused on something that it makes him look ridiculously dumb, and he's not ridiculously dumb. So he has this perception of what hooking up at Bonnaroo is, and we all have an understanding of what he thinks it exactly looks like. And to him, it's disgusting, and I understand if we're just gonna corner this little conversation over here. Hooking up at Bonnaroo doesn't have to mean whatever Brad thinks it is and thinks that everybody should agree to.
Maybe just don't hook up with Brad.
The best times of my life have been meeting up with, I assume they were single women from all over the country to spend an afternoon with, and that might have been it. I might not have never seen her again. That was, in a sense, a hookup. I mean, it wasn't my buddy from college that I had a hot dog with. I mean, we had a nice afternoon.
All right, I'm going to stop you right here because I was there on those mornings when you came crawling out of a tent.
I was starting in on a different end of this.
I was there. I watched you crawl out of the tent.
And then there are those two, but it doesn't mean they're all the same thing. That was my point there. Russ, you can feel free to take it away.
I'm going with hooking up means Bryan crawling out of a tent on a Sunday morning with a woman he hooked up with the night before.
That was a
you and I are both
day.
You and I are both kind of guilty of this, but I kind of got a streak going year after year, so I don't know if I'm ready
my
to break
streak
the
is ended. I don't have a streak going anymore. And it's not necessarily what I'm looking for like immediately, but sometimes it happens quickly and out of nowhere. This girl from Miami.
You brought this up. I did not introduce this.
I know. This girl from Miami I met, we went and saw Paramore in 2018. You guys didn't see her. As far as you know, I'm making her up. Maybe I am. Maybe I was in a dream for a day. That was a great one. That was the best day ever. That was the greatest day of my life.
Okay. All right.
Is that a hookup?
Despite what Brad says. All right. So what's the point? Are you putting the call out now? Are you trying to
what is the point,
manifest this? Yeah. What are you?
I'm with Brad.
Blue-haired.
I'm with Brad. I ain't touching anybody.
I knew you were closer to Brad, but I had to pull that up when I saw him bring it up 2 years in a row. So that's all that was.
Hey guys, this episode of the What Podcast is going a little bit longer than we normally do, but that's because we are having so much fun, right?
Oh, yeah. And we're busy. The number one tip, start getting ready now. So we'll have plenty of your tips coming up here, too, in the next episode as we get closer and closer to Roo.
Yeah, we still got plenty to talk about. We're glad you're still with us. Russ, we got all kinds of tips still coming up, right?
Yes. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss next week's episode. Thanks for. We're gonna hear your calls first of all. Thanks for all that, and thanks for listening. Especially if you've been here since the beginning. Some of you have. If you're first time, welcome. This
And
is
you
what
know,
we do
I don't
every
have
week.
that number written down, so we're still that the contest itself for the junk from Barry's basement, along with a couple of things I can spare out of my garage. That number and the phone calls we'd still appreciate is the phone number, guys.
423-667-7877. That's the number we want you to call.
I was thinking, I hope they have it right in front of them when I say it.
I got it.
yeah, we
call
know
and leave us your favorite your
Call
tips
the number.
or your 423-667-7877. Call.
Yeah.
Thank you guys if you're still with us. We have a couple of surprises for next week's episode, and then before we know it, we will be on the farm with you guys, and we have some surprises from there as well. But thanks again for hanging out. This is a long episode. We know it. That's why we're breaking it up. So see you guys soon.
Consequence Podcast Network.